I'd like to now call this meeting of the Union Bay Improvement District, November the 16th meeting, public meeting, to order. Let me remind everyone that to please turn off their cell phones and recording devices, as we now have our own system in place.
Can I make a point of order regarding your system, your
No,
bylaw?
we cannot now. All cell phones and recording devices are to be turned off. We will be recording this meeting and it will be available on our website, should you choose to avail yourself of that option. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Again, there will be questions and answers, hopefully, at the end of the meeting. The usual guidelines, I hope, will be observed. By that, I mean civil guidelines. So, having said that, we will go on to the first order of business here, and that is the adoption of the agenda. And, yes.
I have a late on him.
This is really late, Preston Belger.
Yeah, well, I only just, so it's just a public service announcement. Just
All right, okay, very well.
At the end, before the questions?
Fair enough.
Okay.
We'll put it in there. Okay, can I get a motion from the board to adopt the agenda as presented? I understand this is a public service announcement you wish to make down
Yeah, after, or
with the
other
inclusion
business is
of
fine.
Trustee Kelger's public service announcement.
Sorry, just, yeah, at the end,
Yeah, okay,
under other business, before the questions.
thank you.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion in to adopt the agenda with that?
Yeah, the motion for to adopt the minute.
And could I have a second for that?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor of adopting the agenda with that late addition, raise your hand. Okay, fair enough. All right, the agenda is adopted. Now let's move on to the approval of the minutes of the last meeting. And could I get a motion from the board to approve the minutes of October the 12th, 2017, public meeting? Motion, somebody?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Seconder?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? 3 are in favor, therefore the motion is carried.
I'd like it recorded. You asked for opposed?
Yes? Those opposed? Trustee Kelger and Trustee
Elliot.
Elliott. Okay.
Are opposed to the adoption of the minutes.
Okay. Okay, therefore, the motion is carried and the minutes are approved. Let's move on now to the reports. And Mr. Mason, you're up. CAO's report.
Okay, the water infrastructure agreement is the first item on my agenda for my report, and CBRD hopes to get this agreement along with the revised KIT Master Development Agreement to the November 21st Committee of the Whole meeting, and then the board, then to the board meeting on November the 28th. It's anticipated that the water infrastructure agreement should be approved at that meeting, and because it doesn't impact KIP's Master Development Agreement. And I'll continue to keep you well posted on our progress in this direction. Regular meetings with the Vancouver Island Health Authority. The process has been a lengthy one and is designed to protect the landowner's interest, and UBID is keeping the Island Health informed of our progress, forwarding the details of where we're at with every stage of the water treatment agreement with KIP, and the request for proposals for the DAP plant as well. We haven't actually gone out for tender for the DAP plant yet. We're still very much in the preliminary stages, not the DAP plant, actually the actual water treatment plant itself. So we will also submit the proposals of the awarded contractors when they are available, and I'm having regular calls and face-to-face meetings with John Hillis from Vancouver Island Health Authority to keep him appraised of our progress. And we actually today, we had John Hillis up, and he took a tour of our reservoir and our plant, and he had a look around there. And then we also took him back up into the watershed because it was a good day for it after all the rains over the weekend. We showed him how all the water drains out of our watershed and into the lake. We had a look at all the different culverts in the area, and we discussed the logging, the future logging in 2018 that Island Timberlands are proposing. And John will be attending the meeting that we're having with Island Timberlands next week. And John supports our intentions to protect our watershed, so that's a very good thing, and he'll be supporting us in that direction. So the third thing on my agenda is logging in the UBID watershed. So as a result of Island Timberlands informing UBID that they were planning logging in the watershed, the UBID Board of Trustees is adamantly opposed to this logging, and Chair Jakes has written letters to all of the government stakeholders as follows. You know, I really got to take my hat off to Peter for all the hard work that he's done regarding taking this on as almost like a personal project for him to really help protect our watershed. And we've had a lot of round of applauses here for certain things, and I think this is one of them that I think he really deserves. He's been working very hard. He's written a couple letters now to the Vancouver Island Health Authority, to both Charmaine Enns and John Hillis. He's written letters to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Assistant Deputy Minister, Tara Faganello, and also to the Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation. So these letters let the stakeholders know, you know, the board's intentions, and that we're doing our absolute best to try and limit the logging in Island Timberlands. Additionally, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with Nicole Rempel, the chief counselor for the Comox First Nations, and Mark Stevens, their lawyer that represents them, regarding garnering their support for opposition against logging in the watershed. And regarding the water billing and financial accounting, we're still really struggling with the system that's in place now. The system that's in place is going to be retired by the company that's presently running it, Hippo Consulting. So they are no longer going to support the product, and we are 2 or 3 versions behind in our updates, and that's something that I inherited from the previous administrator. So it's making it very hard for us to be able to work with the product. And every time we get any kind of an update on our computer, basically the system crashes on us. So we have to go through and find these updates and install them before we can download our meter reads. But we did a significant amount of work. We've worked with other districts, improvement districts, and smaller villages and municipalities to find out what they're doing. And it seems like the most used product on Vancouver Island and throughout the province is a software called UBID software. And I've talked about this before. The estimated cost is approximately $40,000 with a $4,000 annual cost to be able to maintain it for the licenses and everything. We may be able to reduce that cost lower because of Hippo Consulting not carrying on with the support of their product in 2018. We're probably going to jump on board with a couple other districts as well, and smaller villages, to be able to do our training and our implementation all together. So if we all work together, then instead of having one person come to our district to be able to train us, we're going to be able to go and train with 4 or 5 other districts that are going on to the same product and save the districts some money from that perspective. So the nice thing about this product is it's both our billing and accounting system all together. So right now, like for example, if I want to do direct debit payments from somebody's account for their water bill, like I'm on direct debit for mine, I have to go in there, I have to print out a report from this software system, and then I have to take it and I have to go to a separate program and I have to input every one of those readings manually. And so it takes me a significant amount of time. This program will do it all automatically for us. So it will update the accounting software as well. So it'll also save a significant amount of, not a significant, but there will be certainly savings from an administrative perspective as well.
What were the licensing fees for the previous system?
Well, the previous system, it was $750 a year for it, but the problem is the previous administrator didn't do any of the updates. We were 3 updates behind. And so what happens is without the current updates is the software fails every time. Like say for example, we get a new update, Windows 10, like any kind of a new update automatically stops the connection software between Windows 10 and the software itself. So we get failures. And I'm not about to go and pay a bunch of money right now to get the updates for the existing software when we're going to convert in January anyways. And I've managed to find a website that has the connections. So every time I got to go in there, every time we go to try downloading our reads, I have to go in there, download this new software, and get it working, and I got to go through this. Usually it takes me about 4 to 5 hours to get the software to work before I can actually download the reads and come in from the field. So, and then they'll work once, and then it doesn't work, and I got to download it again and redo it again. So it's been a very frustrating process. But there's also 4 districts already in the area on Vancouver Island that are using this Datum software already. They've been using it successfully, and they're raving about it. They say it's a great product. So, and the regional district uses it as well. So it'll be an easy fit down the road as well. So, okay. I'll talk a little bit about the water filtration and the DAP plant. The contracts have been awarded to AWC Solutions of Surrey. We're currently working with Coors with regard to the final steps regarding the contract award with AWC. We're going through their bonding right now. We're working and getting their shop drawings together, and our mechanical engineers, Coors Engineering, mechanical/civil engineers are working to be able to put the actual DAP plant into our overall water plant. From a 2018 annual operating budget and financial report perspective, the board, as you guys are, whoever was here last week, which pretty well everybody's face is pretty familiar here, so most people were here at our last meeting last week, they approved the 2018 operating budget, and I was able to get all the appropriate bylaws through from the ministry, so that's all done and approved, so that's a good thing. That we basically had it done about a month early, but some of the major things that are going to contribute to higher costs in 2018 are PC hydro rates are going to be going up. The comprehensive insurance and ICBC premiums, we had a recommendation for a cost of living increase based on the year-to-year over percentage change in the Canadian Consumer Price Index, as well as a review of other comparable COLA adjustments have also been included in the budget, which is basically an employee of an increase for the employees of Union Bay. And we increased the administrative and the public works staffing hours due to the continued large numbers of property transfers, and with the new accounting and billing system implementation, and plus all the extra work that's going in regarding the new water plant. Capital purchases of an additional public works vehicle will increase the vehicle-related operational costs, fuel and maintenance in 2018. And also our revenues are expected to be slightly higher as compared to 2018, and with a few extra people coming on board. And there was, regarding audio, video recording of the board meetings, as you are well aware, the AV recordings of the board meetings have been posted on the website now for approximately a couple of weeks. The monthly cost to post the meetings will be anywhere between $25 and $45, so it's not a large cost at all. The cost of the camera and the associated equipment was approximately $850. The development process is anticipated to be less than $250. But this is just an estimate, and because I have not received the invoice from our web supplier, and but I don't think it'll be any more than that, according to what he told me.
Excuse me, what do you mean by development process?
Well, just to be able to figure out how to get the videos onto the website.
So is that a monthly fee, like the $250
Okay,
for
but
that?
no, just what I talked about earlier, the monthly cost will be between $25 and $45 a month to download.
Yeah, I understand, but the development process, will that happen monthly?
No.
That's a one-time,
It's a
it's a one-time.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's what I was asking for clarification on, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a one-time cost. And Freedom of Information requests, UBID will follow the Freedom of Information and Protection Privacy Act in conjunction with UBID's bylaw 223, which represents the associated miscellaneous service charges relating to the time and the cost associated with the UBID staff processing and producing the FI requests. And yeah, so that's basically my report for November.
So I have just a quick question about the freedom of information. Thank you for that. I just want to clarify that that means that when a person applies for freedom of information request from Union Bay, they will not be charged for the first 3 hours spent locating and retrieving a record.
Well, yeah, I mean, oh, exactly, Susanna. But it depends on the type of request it is and what's going to be involved in the request. There's a lot of there can be a lot of different information that's requested, right? So,
Yeah, no,
but absolutely, yeah. The first
Yeah.
3 hours are at no charge, and after that they will be charged according to bylaw number 223.
right, and also that the person requesting the information will be given a cost estimate beforehand.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, and so, for example, the landowner who was charged for 4 hours, we will correct that, because it was done without giving an estimate, and B, she was charged for 4 hours for an email, for a record that was sent by email, and this.
But that wasn't your question. I think you're coming up with a statement here.
No, I'm seeking clarification because you're giving us this information now, but requests have already been processed. So there was one request that was done differently. So I'm just asking, will that be rectified?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, like, I have my time written down, what I spent on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of work went into that request.
Yeah. So thinking about that request, which was a request for a request for a record from minutes, sorry,
Yep.
from June and July of 2016 last year. I feel that the board owes you an apology for perhaps adding inadvertently to the difficulty in finding the record. At our first board meeting, when we were all elected in October, we were given a thumb drive by the previous administrator. Peter, you're nodding. And that contained a host of information, including those minutes. We all were given one. except for you, because you weren't, of course, hired at that time. So we could have made it much easier for you, Gord, had one of us just said, oh, Gord, it's on this little thumb drive. So,
And let's just say too, Susanna, like this whole FOI process is very new to me, but due to the exercise that we've gone through as a result of this, I mean, I've learned a ton about it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I've learned just by reading, and also I did quite a bit of work, like looking at some other websites as well. Like if you look at some of the larger municipalities, like just for example, Campbell River and Courtney, they have excellent information on their websites about exactly how, you know, an FOI request works.
Yeah.
And I have a very good relationship with the lady now who works for, like, on the FOI or department for the government, so we're on a first name basis now, and so I spent quite a bit of time with her, and I'll continue to work with her. So, like a lot of times now, I just give her, I'll send her the request, I'll, you know, kind of ask her for advice, and go from there. So, because there's been a number of other, like, requests that have came in through them for us, but requesting information from the ministry's perspective.
yeah, so at any rate, going back to this FOI request from before all of that, which was very arduous and difficult, I hope that that will be rectified with that particular request.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it since, so yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think there's a miscommunication.
Well, I mean, the landowner who sent the request in, I sent a response back asking that person if they would like to talk about it, and I never got a response back from them if they would like to talk about it, so.
So that's one final note that I just wish to add, is that I have spoken to the FOI, and no one has to provide reasons for why they are requesting information, just for clarification. They don't have to give a reason. That's actually invasion of privacy to ask that.
When you finish?
Yes, I am, yeah, thank you.
Just a quick question, Mr. Mason. It's been many years since I had anything to do with FOI. However, is it our policy, once an estimate is given, that a check accompanies the request up front?
Yeah, well, I guess in the situation that Trustee Kelger is talking about.
I'm not talking about that situation, just
Yeah,
say for instance,
well,
a lawyer sends a request for an FOI information to the office.
yes, what would happen is I would give that lawyer an estimate of what the time and the cost, like as far as copying goes, because it's all laid out pretty clearly in how much each individual cost is. I would say, okay, I anticipated being, just use rough numbers, $100 to do this FOI. I would request 50% up front, and the other 100% would be supplied
That's
the
what I
information.
meant.
So yeah, the first 3 hours would be. It depends though, because if you read the FOI rules, certain like if it's for a commercial, or like a lawyer, then they don't get 3 hours for free. They pay right from the start. So, yeah.
Where does it say that?
I read it I'm pretty sure I read that in the FOI guidelines. I also seen it on both Campbell River and Courtney's website as well. So, yeah.
It's also standard to charge an upfront fee.
Yes.
That I think that's really what we should be looking at, because it actually, it is a commitment that people realize that they're taking our time to research this, and that I think it would eliminate the frivolous ones that might not be, that important. So unfortunately, I don't have I think at the last meeting, it actually stated in the Freedom of Information Act, there was a fee could be set, or whether it was in our information. So I think, I need to research it a bit more, but I think that's something that we should consider, as it is standard in other areas of the Freedom for Information. So, did you run across anything like that, Gord, of a standard fee?
No, it's just, it tells you how and when and why you can charge, right? So,
Yeah.
I can tell you that back in the day, which was a long time ago, lawyers would request accident reports from a local police department. And the request would be accompanied by a check.
Yeah, well, the way I read this, there's a fee that you pay up front, and then there's an estimate given, right? There's an estimate given before, and then the fee is paid before the research begins.
Right.
And then if it's a $500 fee and there's a $100 cost, then $400 is reimbursed to the request.
So what it actually says is that the applicant is required to pay a fee for service. The head of the public body must give the applicant a written estimate and may require the applicant to pay a deposit. That's what it actually
Yeah.
says.
So that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
So let me just finish, please. The 4 hour, going back to the apology, the 4 hours that it took you to fulfill the minutes should have taken less than 10 seconds had one of us told you about the thumb drive, because that was all on the computer. And we all had that, and we should have picked up on that. And so it really would have taken less than a minute to just transfer the press send.
But you have, it's a little bit more than that, you have to read it all, right, as well.
Yeah, of course,
And
but
you
that-
have to involve, there's a lot of other people involved in it as well. So, I mean, but I don't wanna go into
Yeah.
the nitty gritty here, I mean,
Yeah.
we all, Trustee Kelger, I think we're all on the same page now, right? I think we're all on the same page is what's gotta happen, and I think regarding the one we're talking about there, I think we can take that outside of this meeting.
Yeah.
We can talk about it and say, okay, really the charge should have been X, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Because, yeah,
let's move on.
so my report is done.
Good. Thank you very much for that,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Mason, and thank you for that.
Oh, no, actually, I'm not done quite yet.
Okay.
Sorry. I included my, kind of my financial
Oh,
report
yes,
in there,
okay,
so,
let's
yeah.
take a quick look at that.
So there's a spreadsheet here that up until the end of the third quarter. And so we're actually in very good shape financially. I think we will have an excess in our operating fund at the end of the year, even though we did have some of the areas that we are over budget in, and will continue to be over budget in until the end of the year, which is the money that we paid Martin G., our temporary administrator, because we had an overlap between him and myself in the beginning of the year. And then also, the fire department still has some year-end purchases, but that should come in on close to budget. And our insurance rates are a little bit higher than anticipated. And we will have, because we are a little bit under budget, we will probably put some of the licensing fees from our VADM software into this year's budget rather than next year's budget. And the other thing is the election, because Martin, the previous administrator used accountants for the auditors during the election, it resulted in some significant costs as far as our audit and accounting. And we are about 150% over budget in that account. But we should come a little bit closer towards year end because we don't have any more significant costs coming up in that area. So that's my financial report, unless anybody has questions. I think you're looking at the 2018 approved budget. Smaller spreadsheet. There should be a bigger one folded in half there.
Thank you.
Okay,
The 2018 approved budget one, that was just in there for as part of the minutes.
That's part of the minutes from.
That you'd already gotten one that I
Yeah,
sent
okay.
you at the end of,
As part of the minutes for October.
yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, got it.
okay, moving along here. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Mason. coming up to fire chief's report. Okay.
Maybe I'll just jump in here for 1 second regarding the fire chief. Our fire chief right now is currently on disability leave. He had an unfortunate accident on his motorcycle. So he got hit when he was turning left in an intersection, and his motorcycle's a write-off. We're lucky that he wasn't too badly hurt. So he's off right now, and Ian Ham is our acting fire chief right now, and the guys have really stepped up from the fire department perspective to ensure that we have coverage from the fire department. Yes.
When did this happen, Lord?
2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, actually, it's been almost 3 weeks ago now. Yeah. But he's doing much better. He's still pretty sore. I think he might have a couple fractured ribs and a sore hand where he landed, and but I think he was able to. He kind of told me the story actively and saved himself. You know, getting a lot worse hurt. So.
Okay, let's move on to the fire chief's report. Primary purpose of the report, keeping the improvement district board informed as to the activities and progress on major programs and or objectives. So the department responded to 3 incidents in October. First responder calls, they had 6, no further action required. And they had 1 structure fire. No further action was required on that. He doesn't give any figures as to the time spent on monthly fire response statistics. So we'll move on to the open fire bans and coastal fire center. Sorry about that. UBID currently does not have an open burning bylaw of its own, therefore we fall under the jurisdiction of the Coastal Fire Center. There are currently no open fire burning restrictions. Refer to BC Wildlife Management Grant's website, www.bcwildlifeca, for the latest information on current restrictions and fire danger reading. Coastal Fire Center does not issue fire permits of any kind. However, a registration number for Category 3 pile, which is greater than 3 meters in width and 2 meters in height, is required. Do we have a permit for the Halloween party? We won't go there.
Yes, we did.
Excellent, thank you, Susan. Okay, a registration number can be obtained by phone in the Coastal Fire Center. Regardless of the current burning conditions, the provincial bending index must be followed. It determines when you can burn according to the latest atmospheric conditions. It is a provincial piece of legislation governing air quality throughout the province. You cannot light an open fire of any kind unless the current reading is good. Failure to do so can result in a $1,150 fine. The bending index can be found online by going to, and there's a website there, Fire Index, and using the central Vancouver Island as your location. The local office of the Environment Ministry in Nanaimo can be reached at 1-250-751-3100 to obtain the current index reading. Remember, it's everyone's responsibility to follow these rules in order to protect the airshed from being abused and to protect the health of your neighbors. All these links can be found on the UBID website. Training. Our new member, probationer Hebert, completed and passed his first responder course and will soon be available to respond to medical calls. Excellent. Vehicles and vehicle safety, nothing new to report. Membership, current strength is still 18 members. Fire hall, nothing new to report. And occupational health and safety, nothing new to report. Public relations and events, nothing new to report. Okay, that's the fire chief's report. Now we'll move on to the public works report. Langley Lake. Langley Lake is doing really good for this time of year. The water level was at minus 61 centimeters at its lowest. Minus 61. I don't know the math here. That's what, about 2 feet?
Yep, just over.
In the dry state of summer.
Yep. So about 27 inches, I think, would be 2.54 centimeters per inch. So.
The turbidity stayed under 1.0, which is good because I think it's 1.0 where they kind of, they could issue a boil water advisory, but they don't. All summer is now at 0.34 NTU. Chlorine levels have been consistent. Very little adjustments have been made to the raw water. The spillway is now overflowing and the culverts have started to flow as well. Turbidity testing will resume for the water coming from the culverts in the watershed. Valley-wide excavating has no boom locks. So I will keep asking Mike Hamilton logging. Island Timberlands mentioned they have some for sale, but I'm hoping that Hamilton will have some for a very low cost. There's 3 new services on Garden Road, Cal's Road, and Tappan Street. And truck replacement, for those of you probably aware of it, the old truck they had as a backup has died. Our superintendent's been looking for a used dump truck. This is a small dump, like something that can haul a couple of yards of dirt around, as well as use as a backup vehicle. To replace expired Dodge truck, and a budget of at least $15,000 should be considered. Everything I've seen is very old and beat up and going for $5,000 to $10,000. So I think that's something to take into account. We don't want to go too cheap on it, because otherwise it's just
The operating costs.
yeah. Repairs, 5608 4th Street, the service was replaced and also the vacant lot was upgraded at the same time. So water stats are 0.35 NTU. In and out is 0.45 NTU. Chlorine 1.75 parts per million free, right Jim? Tank level is 10 centimeters from full, water temperature 11.4 degrees Celsius. Water consumption 350 to 400 cubic meters per day, and the Langley Lake height 5 centimeters. Now, again, that's 5 centimeters over the spillway. So there you go. Now, could I, anything coming out of that from the board? Okay, could I get a motion to have these reports filed for information? You can go.
So moved.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor? Okay. Okay, now we move on to what is here?
You were going to talk about
Yeah, there we go, okay.
the email I already talked
Thank you for
about.
that. Yeah. We're moving on to the new business. The next subject is something that we have to, and really not just addressing the board here, but I think everybody in the room, that we have to really be concerned about. Back in May of this year, Island Timberlands came to us with the intention, they advised us that they have the intention of logging in the watershed. At that meeting, they indicated an area roughly to the southwest of the lake. It contains a stand of mature timber, which is why they want to log there. However, we're going to have some real serious problems with this. The board, Trustee Kelcher and Trustee Elliott and I, with our public works superintendent, toured this area with timberlands and looked it over. The problem, I'm sorry if I'm kind of rattling around here, but the problem is it goes back to one of years ago. Timberlands owns the watershed and the timber in it. It's privately owned timber. They bought it and they can basically do whatever they want to it. We only own the lake bed, oddly enough. One of the three, apparently the three local improvement districts in the province that actually owns the lake bed. In addition to owning the lake bed, we have a 20-meter buffer zone around the lake. for want of another word to call it, which is, about 60 feet, maybe the length of this room, maybe a bit more. So, if they're allowed to log up to that buffer zone, I could pretty much, well, tell you right now, there goes our water supply. Because the lake can't stand that kind of hit. There's where they wish to log, at least when they pointed this out at our meeting. And again, I'm guessing here, I'm not an engineer, but the rate there is probably between 30 and 40%. The soil there is a type of alluvial soil. It's loessio, I would say, and that means it's very light, okay? So if they take the trees out of there, there's a very good chance the whole hillside will slide into the lake. Now, maybe I'm playing the devil's advocate here, but I don't think so. So, what we have done is try to, as Gord mentioned earlier, we wrote letters to everybody that's concerned, including the regional district, the Ministry of Housing, we come under their umbrella. We've written to our MLA and attached all previous correspondence that we've had. We've met with Comox First Nation over this problem, and they are very concerned because, as you know, they own a considerable amount, well, I shouldn't say they own it. They are negotiating for a considerable amount of land in this area, and there seems to be every indication that they might be successful. So we have to somehow find a way to convince timberlands that logging in this area is not going to be a very good idea. Our primary thrust has been to engage Mr. John Hillis of the Island of Vancouver Health Authority in assisting us with this. Now, I believe he recently just took the place of Mr. Dave Cherry, and I think there's a number of you probably are familiar with the name here. And he just toured the water site, or the watershed, with Mr. Mason and our public works superintendent, Danny McGill, this morning. And he was quite supportive, I guess is the word. Yeah, I was going to say appalled, but actually supportive would be. He was quite supportive of our effort to try and come to some sort of agreement with timberlands about this water source. A little bit of history here. We do not own the water, and I think a lot of people here are aware of that. We get our water from a permit issued by the Department of Lands, Forests, and Natural Resources. And now this permit, we actually have two permits. One to store the water and one to distribute the water. We also have to have a permit from Vancouver Island Health Authority to operate a water system. All these permits, of course, we pay an annual fee on. Recently, the Board of Health has been after us about adopting a watershed protection plan. Well, we can't because we don't own the watershed. We do not own the watershed. Island Timberlands does, and they can log in. Now, we have a meeting coming up on the 21st with Timberlands in the NIMO, and hopefully we can come to some sort of resolution on this. Mr. Hillis will be there, Mr. Mason, myself, and our public works superintendent will be there. And perhaps we can come to some sort of solution. But I have to tell you, we're very gravely concerned about this situation. Especially in view of those of you here know the story of Perseverance Creek that Cumberland has just went through. And that also involves timberlands, who own the land there. Perseverance Creek has been shedding all kinds of turbidity into Comox Lake. That's one of the reasons why the regional district has a boil water advisory so often on their, because of the turbidity in the water. Anyway, I won't belabor it anymore, but it's certainly the gravest problem we have facing us right now. And we're trying our best to address it. Okay. Any of the trustees have anything you want to add to that? We will have a question period after the meeting.
So I do have a question.
Yes.
You said that Mr. Hillis, and we've known this for a long time, that Union Bay is supposed to produce a watershed protection plan.
Yes.
So, so Mr. Hillis says we can't do that now?
No, I'm saying that we can't do that now, Trustee Cowser, for the simple reason is that we don't own the watershed. We don't own any of the land there.
So what did Mr. Hillis say to that?
I don't know. I haven't asked. I don't have an answer to that yet.
So that would be something to
Yep,
ask him.
that's right. Yes, definitely. Yeah. See, our position is that our responsibility for the water takes place the minute that water enters our system. And really, that's the only responsibility we have, and it's a big responsibility. But in respect of protecting the water source, we don't have that ability. We don't own the land around the lake. Now, Department of Lands and Forests may have some input into this because, just hang on a minute, right? They're the ones that issue the licenses to store the water and to distribute the water. So I'm saying, okay, they did this back in when they incorporated all the local improvement districts back in the late 60s, okay? They took over control of the water supply in British Columbia. Now, having done that, I assume that they would also take the responsibility that comes along with that. That is the position I believe the board should be in. Now, we'll see how it plays out. Anyway, yeah.
So again, I think asking John
Yes,
Hillis,
well, of course.
what do we do? How do we
We've
do
done
it?
that.
Yeah,
And what did he say?
We haven't got a response.
we haven't got a response.
Oh,
No, this is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on.
Just one
Sorry,
thing in there.
yes.
I think one thing that people should understand, and I work in the logging industry with a company that works on tree farm licenses that are very prescriptive as to how you work on that land. But Island Timberlands owns the land that they're logging, so they are really not regulated by anybody on the processes and how they do things. So, I mean, it's quite a, it is going to be a battle for us. I think it's really good that we've involved VHA, but I don't know how much authority they're going to have over Island Timberlands, where it is their land and they own the trees, right? So it's quite a different scenario than a, Western Forest Products logging that's regulated by the company, right? Or the government. So it is going to be a challenging process.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so let's move on to the last item here. Yes, finally, after too long a delay, we're getting to, thanks. The appointment of standing committees. This has been in abeyance for quite a while. Hopefully, we can rectify this tonight. Public Works and the Fire Department are the two standing committees that we have to start with here. And I would like to
have the board put forward a nomination for the chair for the Public Works Committee. Do I hear any nominations here for someone to chair the Public Works Committee?
I nominate Jim Elliott as chair.
Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Jim, we never even asked you if you're going to accept it. You accept.
I'll accept.
Thank you very much, Jim. Okay. Now, the next one, of course, is the or the fire department. And this is also a very important one because we're hoping to move forward with a new fire department building here. Hopefully, while I'm still alive. So could I ask for a nomination for chair to chair the fire department committee?
I'll nominate Rick Bitt.
Do I have a second?
I nominate Glenn Loxon.
No, you can't do that. Sorry. Okay, so, yes, we have that, and those in favor, oh, by the way, did we actually vote on yours? I don't think we did, sorry. But all in favor of this nomination being accepted?
Oh, Elliot and.
Yeah, both of them, let's vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay? Fair enough.
Help me?
Now, I must also tell you that all the trustees are automatically members of these committees, okay? So if you wish to help out on the committee with the chair, be my guest. And you know what? It's going to probably be up to the chair to ferret out anyone in the community who will be willing to help on these committees. I'm sorry, but I don't see anybody stampeding to the table here to sign up for it. So this can be worked out.
Did we not, we had a gentleman at one of our meetings.
Yes, yeah.
And did he not put his name forward?
Not yet, no, but I'm hoping that, after we got this on the table now, that people will come forward with help.
Do a study examining the pros and cons of conversion. It is recognized that the final decision rests with the landowners via a vote by referendum.
Okay, everybody understands that? Okay, so we'll now take a vote on Trustee Clouser's motion. Those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Those not in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Well, I have to tell you, I'm in favor of the motion. And
Thank you.
I believe it's something that we should look at, and there's no harm in asking for information.
Yeah.
Okay? Before we,
I can hand this to you, Gord, for the minutes.
Yep.
It's the written.
before we get to the question period, I've been bringing up every time I can, and this is going to have to come to a series, a couple of meetings anyway, Mr. Mason, when it comes to borrowing money, okay? And again, I'm telling you, we will have to borrow money,
Yeah.
okay? So I want to keep that, we're not making any false claims here. We will have to borrow money. How much, we're not quite sure yet. Help me out here, Mr. Mason. Can you give me an estimate? I'm not holding you to anything.
It's pretty early in the process to start throwing around numbers as far as it goes, because we haven't even got to the design stage of the plant. But it'll be probably in the zone of, we'll probably have to borrow about 1.5 million, anywhere between 1.5 and $2 million. We do have some Class C estimates on the plan at approximately $3 million. A Class C estimate is 40% either way. So as you can see, that it's up or down either way. So, but until we actually get our design done and we go to tender and we actually get the the bids back, well, we know exactly how much we'll be able to borrow. But I've been to the banks, and and I've been talking to them about borrowing rates and the amount that we can borrow. Union Bay is in a very good position from a borrowing perspective. We have quite a bit of capital put away, and so we will be in a very good position, and because of our capital structure and our operating structure, we will be able to pay it off in a reasonable amount of time due to our capital contributions over the year. I'm just putting together a business plan right now to be able to roll it out. We're kind of forecasting approximately a financial period of approximately 10 years, but we should be able to pay that off earlier. But we don't want to put too much risk to the Union Bay Improvement District, so that if we ever have any major infrastructure failures down the road, that we will be able to afford to do the right thing to be able to fix these things without putting us in too much jeopardy.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now get to the question and answer period.
We'll lose my public service.
Oh, forgot about that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so,
Briefly, please.
yeah, it is very brief. This is a public service announcement to the landowners, just as a heads up for what you might receive in response if you communicate with some trustees. I'm going to share what I received. It goes like this. Susan, I thought the full moon was over. You are like a broken record. The only ratepayers you represent are part of your political cult. That's you guys. You should put your efforts into pulling this community together instead of tearing it apart. Seeing that you are so heavily involved in the Protect Our Water group, why aren't you and your members putting a huge amount of effort into protecting our water at Langley Lake from timberlands logging? It would show that you care about the community instead of destroying our community's development for the future. So,
Okay.
this
I
is an
think-
unfortunate way of communicating, so I just give you fair warning.
And that's why we shouldn't allow anything on the agenda without notice in the future.
I suppose.
You know, when
Yeah,
you
well,
trust somebody,
that's why
then the
you
trust
don't-
is broken.
This was an
So-
email sent by a
And we should
trustee.
bring some of your
It's
emails.
Trustee Glenn Loxham to me on Union Bay business. So,
Trustee Counselor, we won't go there. There's been a lot of back and forth.
I have never.
Let's move on to the question period. That actually is not an agenda item. Okay, this lady over here.
I just wanted to say,
Susan.
I was told that we had a license, but I'm not too sure if we have licenses. for the-
Yes, we have 2 licenses.
Yeah. No, for the fire
For
department.
the fire department.
The
Halloween fire.
Oh, okay, all right.
What fire?
I'm quite sure you did then. I'm quite sure you did. Yes,
Yes, Mary Reynolds, allthingsunionbay.com. I'd like to ask about your bylaw 270. It says that you can't, anybody can't take use your videos without your written consent, and you put them on YouTube. So I downloaded it, I've edited them. You're not abiding by your own brand-new bylaw that you spent time and money on. So I was wondering, why is that happening, and what are the development costs? Is that somebody just making a YouTube account?
well, perhaps Mr. Mason could answer about the development. I think we already covered that.
No, you didn't.
It's a one-time, yes,
Yeah,
we
but
said
what
it
is
was a
it?
one-time.
What is it, I'm
Ma'am,
asking?
let me respond. I believe earlier on, we said it was a one-time expense to
Right.
get the video on the website.
YouTube. To put a YouTube account, right? Is that what the development cost is? For him to create a YouTube account?
I'm not gonna get into a debate with you here, because I know exactly where it's gonna go, so.
No,
I'm
you
not-
don't.
I'm not
You're
gonna
why
sit
are you
here and-
Okay, that's
afraid? Why
fine.
can't you answer a question?
It's a one-time expense.
Yeah, but for what? To create a YouTube account? That's what it was for, wasn't it?
It may or may not be. I
But
don't have that.
why are you
information.
trying to hide it?
We're not trying to hide
Sure,
it.
you won't say what it was for. What's the development cost for?
The question, you get to somebody else.
Because we had to put the work in to figure out how to take the videos from here
Yes,
and get them onto our website.
onto YouTube. You didn't put them, you put a link, you've embedded them. You don't even understand what you're talking about, that's the problem.
That's enough. Next question. Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to respond to that
Hank?
last statement, please. Can I have the mic?
Okay.
But
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't think that's how I envisioned the process to be, that it would be on YouTube. I don't know, we haven't had a chance to discuss this and how it all works. But one thing I do say that it comes down to about respecting what we're asking people to do. And certainly people can do abusive things if they so wish, and we can't control that. But again, as we have respect for each other here in our community, then we should respect the rules that we put in place, and you know, if they can be manipulated for some vicious reason, I guess that might happen.
I like the respect there, huh? With him towards her.
That's enough, okay? You're out of order. Next question, please. Ma'am.
Yes, Karen Valeri. I have a question, I guess I should direct it at Gordon.
Yes.
The VADM software, the 40,000 plus 4,000 a year. I'm just wondering, how many years would it be viable for? Like, does it just keep on updating? Like, is it going to be good for like 10 years and then we'd have to get a new system, or?
well, typically these type of software is usually like you pay an annual fee, so you pay the original capital cost to be able to get it all installed in your system, which is about $40,000, which includes everything, all the training, hosting, everything that needs to be done. And then after that, you pay, like I said, it's about $3,200 or $3,300 a year, but I just kind of upped it up to $4,000 because there'll probably be some extra costs in there. And that includes all your updates every year. So once you pay the initial capital cost of $40,000, it's just like buying a car. Once you pay the $40,000 to buy your car, you pay a certain amount every year for maintenance of that car, which would include your upgrades and maybe any additional training on the upgrades that you get.
I guess what I'm getting at is, like, when is it going to be termed a dinosaur? Like, because you
Well,
know,
that's a pretty hard question to ask, right?
Well,
Software, yeah.
I mean,
well,
I don't
you
have that
know, it
answer.
could be like, I just don't want to
I would
hear.
assume that it's probably going to be at least 5 to 10 years that we're going to be able to use this software. But software changes very quickly, right? And VADM's been around for a long time. It's a very established product. And the majority of all the municipalities on Vancouver Island are using this type of software. So it's a very well-used product.
So for 5 years, it could cost 65,000, and then maybe we'd have to get another one, correct?
No, 5 years. We are
Times
going to pay.
$3,000,
We're going to pay an operating cost of $4,000 a year.
right?
So
Plus the
5 times 4 is
40,000.
20.
20 plus 40 is 60.
Yeah,
Yeah,
plus
yeah,
the
okay,
40
yeah,
is
yeah,
60,000.
exactly, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we may be able to lower it a little bit if some of our training costs are reduced due to being able to work with some of the other government districts.
How old was the old program, or like what?
13 years, I think,
Yeah.
13 or 14 years.
I think most software IT, when we invest in it, it's a 10-year plan minimum. So I would say that that's probably, you know, I wouldn't think 5 years it would be.
Yeah. I could see 10.
Yeah, 10
Five,
is
you know,
kind of a.
and then you start dividing it by how many people live here and what it really breaks down to, you know, I just don't out that way. But my only other, okay, so thank you for answering that. And I just have a comment, I wasn't going to, but on the FOI requests. One of the trustees said that how frivolous some FOI requests could be, or something to that extent. Whenever anyone requests an FOI to whichever government office, it's not up to the person receiving the FOI request to see if it's frivolous or not. it could be any of us that request an FOI request, and it could be for a study we're doing or anything. So I just want to put it out there that it's not up to a trustee or chair to determine whether or not whether they should do it or not, or whether,
Well, it's not a question whether they should do it or not, they have to do it. Simple
well,
as that.
exactly. But I
Okay.
mean,
It
Point-
wasn't,
point taken.
it wasn't an implication about what, my statement wasn't about the person and what they're asking for, or whether it was relevant to me or not. It's about us in this room understanding that when these requests are made, that it ties up our time of our administrator. So it's standard in other areas to have a fee. So that's a commitment on
Right.
both parties that, yes, I want to pay for the service that I'm asking for, and I'm willing to put the money up front to do that. And it's also on our behalf as a business to make sure that we're covering our costs.
oh,
and,
I understand
so
that, but just
that's
the
what
way
I'm
you
saying.
said it, I guess
It
I just.
removes the frivolous requests that might take a lot of our time up. It's a commitment on both parties. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you
Okay,
just said
fair
it
enough.
again, though. You just said it could be frivolous.
Okay,
That's all
the
we're
point's
saying.
taken then. This fellow, Mr. Godfrey?
Yeah, I'm just curious, it was mentioned on the fire chief's report that all is well with the equipment of the trucks. I'm just wondering what's the status of the old truck? Has that been disposed of as yet?
I don't think so. Gordon, can you
No,
tell?
yet?
Yeah, I answered that question last week, or last month when you asked the same question.
Well,
But anyways, no, what the situation is, there's a fire department in Saskatchewan that's interested in the truck. And we are working with them to be able to complete the process, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but I was in contact with them last Friday, and they supplied me with a letter indicating that they're interested in the truck. So that's where, it's the same status as last time we talked. It's just a matter of, with everything that's going on in the district right now, it hasn't been a high priority for me, but we will get there eventually. And with our fire chief being off, that's taken a lot of our time. I mean, he's off right now due to his medical leave. We've been trying to, ensuring that we have the proper coverage and stuff for the area from a safety perspective.
Thank you, Gordon. This gentleman over here has had his hand up for a while. Go ahead.
Jerry Sando, long-time resident. First of all, I'd like to compliment the board on the way of meeting them last night, and I appreciate the input that's happening, and it's so wonderful to come and see a little more friendly atmosphere out here, and because we love our community, that's why we're here, right? So I'd like to start off with that. And then secondly, as everybody knows, and maybe everybody doesn't know, in 1913, we did have a dam broke, up at the watershed. And caused, I guess, at one point, one person was actually killed, et cetera, drowned. So my concern is with the logging now thrown into this whole thing, and the old structure that's up there, and the weakening of the dam. I understand there is a crack in the dam, a small crack. It is leaking. Will the board consider looking at the players involved in wanting to use our water, which is either water or co-op ban or whatever? Is there a way of the board looking at that as from a point of protecting us, ratepayers, from a point of if we did have a weather thing happen or an earthquake or all of the above? I mean, where do we stand as people?
Okay, well, I can tell you this, Mr. Sanho, that dam is inspected regularly as according to VHA regulations, and it's always got a clean bill of health. It was constructed, I believe, the latest edition around 1970, and it's considered to be in very good shape. The crack that you mentioned, yes, there is a crack there, but it apparently is of little consequence. But not to say that our superintendent hasn't been keeping a close eye on things.
So I think, like, as we know, the world is upside down with the tragedy happening with whether you believe in global warming or in there. My concern is that is there a way of instigating something to do with the people that are using the water.
Well, not really. I don't know how we can do that. As I mentioned earlier, VHA saddled us with creating a watershed protection plan over property we don't even own. So, I mean, I don't know where to go from there. There could be an earthquake tomorrow and wipe out the whole belt. You know, we can't. Yeah. Can't.
Just to add to that, something that, with regards to the dam, the board is supposed to produce an inundation plan. Which is an emergency plan for what to do if they're in the event of a dam breakage. And that's another piece of.
Yeah, that is, that's different than the watershed protection.
No, I know, it
Okay.
is, but it
Yes,
is
you're right.
something,
Yeah,
it's
we
something
have to
else
do
that
that.
we need to do.
Yeah, among many other things. This lady back here?
Hi, when did you say they were gonna log? Did they say a date when they're going?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, they give us a date of August of 2018.
August of next year?
Yes. Yeah.
And you said you talked to Charmaine Enns, the health officer?
No, I did not talk to her,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
No, we've been dealing with Mr. John Hills.
Because she has the power to stop it if it's going to endanger water supply.
Well, yes and no. They can issue a prevention order, which they did in the case of Perseverance Creek, for example. However, the prevention order was issued after the damage was already done. So what we're trying to do is forestall that. And there's a couple of options open. Unfortunately, they all involve money that we don't have. So
do you have plans to speak to?
well, as I said earlier, we have a meeting with Timberlands on the 21st in the NIMO. Perhaps we can come to some sort of understanding about what they intend to do when it comes to their logging practice. We can start with that. I think we have to have Mr. Hillis do an inspection of the lake today, but I think what has to happen is that a proper assessment of the lake has to be done by a neutral party. Then perhaps at some point we can come to some sort of conclusion about where we go from here. And certainly we'll have to involve the provincial government, I would think, at some level. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Janet Thomas, I have a question about the last UBID meeting. Specifically when you did the discussion and the vote on the bylaw 264, which is the
Yes.
developer
Subdivision.
Okay, subdivision, thank you. One of the trustees mentioned in that discussion, I think it was Trustee Pelter, I'm not sure, something about a legal opinion, and I'd like to know, what was the approximate date of that legal opinion? Was it for this board, or was it for the previous board when Carol Molstead was the chair? And when did the board actually get that legal opinion? So two questions. What was the approximate date of that legal opinion? And when did the board actually receive that for the discussion at the last meeting?
Yeah, I can answer that.
Go ahead.
The legal opinion was dated July 12th.
This year?
Yeah, of 2017. Yeah, July 12th, 2017, but we did not receive it, or the trustees did not receive it until the day of the board meeting.
Why didn't you get it sooner?
I don't know. That's a good question. But we did not receive a copy of the legal opinion until October 12th. And actually, that was based upon my requesting it.
Okay, anybody else? Mr. Godfrey? No. Okay, all right, well, I think that's it, everybody. Thank you very much for coming, and could I get a move to adjourn?
I move the meeting to